So we're waiting a couple of seconds so the video starts.
Okay, thank you everybody for showing up. My name is Andreas Fletcher. I'm going to talk about Trustlines today. If you have been a frequently EthCC visitor, you'll maybe hear some stuff double because 2017 was actually the first time we presented Trustlines at EthCC in 2017. So I'll just go ahead and start. We'll have like 10 minutes time for questions afterwards if you have any questions. The overall vision and the thing that I really believe is that by 2026 we will be able to provide everybody with the means to create money themselves, but not just any kind of money, but money that they can actually use to spend on daily activities, goods and services in basically their daily life. If you look at the connectivity that we have, we can see that pretty much everybody in the world is connected by 6 paths maximum. And this is called the small world phenomenon. And you probably encountered that at any point of your life when you added somebody on Facebook or you added somebody on LinkedIn that you didn't know but you wanted to know. You could already see that you know somebody that knows this guy or this person. And during evolution and the continuously addiction to our mobile phones, this is actually increasing because people are closer connected to each other even though they don't actually realize it. The world is smaller than we think. And this is something that for Trustlines we want to leverage in a positive way. Okay, now, thank you. So leverage in a positive way to allow people to actually give them the opportunity to create money in a specific way. Okay, so how do we do this? We create a programmable money system that is based on trust lines or trust connectivities of individual peoples, because trust is the main factor in value. If you look at the history of money and value in general, the remote is a little bit laggy, I'm sorry. Okay. No, okay. No, let me try to click it. I'll figure it out. So then Trustlines is basically an open source mutual credit system. Mutual credit is an old concept of money where people give each other credit lines and they create IOUs with each other and pay with the IOUs themselves. Trust is a huge Trust is a huge factor in terms of value. If you look at money in general, trust has always been a factor in money creation, but also value generation. It started in the beginning of history where we have asset-backed value, so like backed by gold, so people trusted in the value of gold. We have now central bank money where we say we trust the central bank or we trust the government. We have commercial bank money where we say if I put money into a bank, I trust the money that this bank will give it back. And even if I don't trust the bank, I at least trust the regulatory framework that the bank is operating in, so that if I put money in a bank, I'll get my money back out. Cryptocurrency is also related to trust. We trust a trustless machine to verify transactions, but we still have trust in it. But the next step, I'm not saying in terms of better, but I'm just saying the next step is that people can trust each other and create money among themselves. We can be our own bank, and this is what we refer to as people-powered money. So a programmable money system that operates through trusted lines of individual people. So how does it actually work? Let's get a little bit in detail. So we have two people, Alice and Bob. Yeah? Alice and Bob create a trust line with each other. And a trust line is basically two credit lines. Alice gives a credit line to Bob, Bob gives a credit line to Alice, and they agree on an initial balance, which normally is 0. Now, if Alice wants to pay Bob something and doesn't have any money, she can pay with, hey, I owe you this money. As long as Bob is in a position where he has trust in Alice to accept this IOU, it's fine. Again, the important factor is the trust relationship that they have with each other, and the limit always reflects the trust that they have with each other. So Bob would be happy to accept an IOU from Alice because he knows that at some point of time, either Alice will repay him in something valuable to him, so either cash or other service. It gets tricky when you have to pay a stranger because we don't trust strangers. So what happens? Alice wants to pay something to Charlie because Charlie has something awesome that she would like to acquire. But Charlie doesn't trust Alice. So in Trustlines, we allow people to find trust relationships, trust paths in the overall system that allows people to accept payments from people that they do not trust. So in this case, we would now have Bob, who is basically in a trust relationship with Alice and Charlie. Alice could use the liquidity of Bob to pay Charlie, which would result that Alice owes Bob, Bob owes Charlie, Charlie receives something of value, the IOUs, and can give whatever Alice wants to acquire to Alice. So the overall system is designed to balance out. So like at some point of time, somebody will have a lot of IOUs. So the question is, how do you settle? The system overall does not require you to settle because it's supposed to be designed and set up in a way that debt cancels out by finding the right path. So if you would have now Dave that would want to acquire something from Bob in this scenario, we would result in basically Dave owing something to Charlie and Charlie owing something to Bob. But in the previous case, we already had that Bob owes something to Charlie. So the debt that basically Bob has towards Charlie is now canceled out to 0. And that's how the overall system basically cancels out debt if there are enough connectivities. And as shown with the 6 degrees of separation, if we have a lot of people in the system, we find paths between people that cancel out the debt in overall. So why not use this to create a lot of money? I can download the Trustlines app and create 200 accounts, and all of them have credit lines with each other with like $20 million. And now I'm rich, and now I want to go buy something. So we have thought about this, and I have to disappoint you. You can't make money that way. I'm very sorry. Because at some point of time, you always have a bottleneck. There's always somebody that you have to connect to, which is not yourself. And that's the person or the entity that basically bottlenecks the credit and the capacity that you can issue to the overall system. In this case, Alice is the saver because Alice knows Eve. And Eve was always a little bit shady in the back days in school, so she knows that Eve wants to basically screw a little bit the system. So Alice gives Eve a max capacity or a credit line of 10. So even though Eve, in theory, has tens of millions of whatever in her system, she can only spend 10 towards the overall system because Alice bottlenecks her, basically. So the question is this money? And you can determine money in different ways, but as long as you can actually use it to buy stuff, I think it's fair to say that this is money. You can make your own opinion about that. But if people are able to acquire goods and services that they need in their daily life, we think that it's money, or it should be determined as money. And IOUs are also one of the oldest form of money overall. And if you look at what a bank issues you, it's basically the same as an IOU, because you don't have, like if you put money into the bank, you don't have that money anymore. It will eventually result in the bank promising you that you can get the money back if you need it. And normally that also works very good. So for who is this most useful? So in theory, everybody could use this, but in theory, not everybody has the same problems. So Europe has a very good money system, but even though Europe does have a good money system, you still have people that are not part of the traditional financial system, out of many different reasons. They don't want to. They don't want to be. They don't want to trust a bank. They don't have an ID card, etc. But we also have a lot of other people in the world which are unbanked or underbanked. But 66% of these people have mobile phones, which gives them basically access to Trustlines so that they can use it. And a lot of people have trust between each other so they can actually use it. So we have a team in Venezuela, and that's one of my pilot projects of Trustlines. And I'm going to hand over to Daniel because he's that guy. And he can talk about what Trustlines is basically doing in Venezuela.
Okay. I can try use this. So
click and just wait a few seconds.
So you're going. Oh, you can give me yeah, because you're coming up. Oh, thanks. Okay, so these are my guys. It's been going on for some time now, like basically this whole year. It's been a fun journey. Oh, I actually can speak this way. I prefer.
For the video.
For the video. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. So, yes. What's going on down there? I mean, like this is kind of tricky in the sense that you all had heard like Venezuela, hyperinflationary country, like everything is going nuts. Right now, they just advertise kind of like alpha leak that they're going to take down 6 more zeros out of the currency. Makes sense. I don't even know how current bills look like. They're like printed at home, you know, like you download a PDF and you print it. It doesn't make any sense. The paper is more expensive, so that makes sense. Sadly, I didn't brought some bills because that's always fun. So basically what happens, like there's no cash in Venezuela. It's very hard to get cash, and it loses value so fast that it doesn't even make sense. So people cannot directly buy goods with cash. They just use it to get into like public transportation because that's the only way you can pay. So merchants lose sales sometimes because of this, and for many other reasons because of the very complex, you know, like, yeah, the very complex network of different payment system that's live in the country. So basically down in Venezuela right now, people, I do grocery shopping with like my American, you know, account, pay with Zelle, do some Venmo and PayPal and stuff like that. Some people pay with crypto. Binance is huge, like, a lot of people are using it like a bank account, and a bunch of stuff like that. And American money is everywhere. You see dollars everywhere in the streets, like everybody is doing that. You pay for the bus as well with $1 and you're good. Getting small bills, that's tricky. You know, you pay with $100 and you're like, yeah. Last time I put gas in a car, I basically gave gas for like 5 other people. Like, hey, they don't have any change. You want gas? You want gas? Everybody wants gas? Go ahead. So people are resorting to creating these paper IOUs. So you see them even like that, printed like in an industrial way, and they sell it to other businesses. Like, you know, yeah, we just cut out some things because, yeah, it's censorship, but good censorship, not to get, you know. So everybody's doing this, like everybody's got one of these, everybody has washed one of these and lose the money value that's there. You go buy some coffee, you don't have change, you know, and it's kind of like a fidelization approach as well, like, you know, you're coming back because you can get another coffee later. So this is one thing that I very much recommend that you check out. We did a lot of research in the field. And basically, one of the most fun things is just tapping into the network of local merchants. I'm going to go deeper down into that in a sec. But this was a live kind of thing. Like the grocery shop, besides this one, was just basically selling apples like that, so very easily. And there was a gift. What happened to the gift? Anyway, so this is the perspective from the consumer. This is, as you can see, it's a small a small target for the research, but it was anyway very, I think it was way bigger in terms of the impressions. It was done through Instagram mostly, besides the on-site interviews. So do they know what an IOU is? Yes, maybe not as an IOU, but as a pagaré, as a ballet, so many, it's just basically they give the people, oh, this the tiny square paper with the seal? Okay, yeah, that's that. So receiving IOUs, that's very big. I mean, I'm the kind of consumer that goes away. Like, you don't have change, you don't have this way of payment, I'll go buy somewhere else. But a lot of people are divided between this. So it creates a very interesting dynamic down there. Besides these, okay, well, this is me leaving a bakery shop, basically. But the fun fact is that people do want to try something new. So how do we handle this? How do we not, wash these IOUs in the washing machine and stuff like that? Don't lose them, don't break them, etc., etc. And anyway, like making a good IOU is also expensive for the merchant. So it's like, you had a lot of extra overhead to do just that. So they are losing sales because people keep asking about potentially random payment methods, because right now, like every month, we had a new payment method down there. Everything is fintech down there, kind of crazy. So what are we doing right now? We are piggybacking on this beautiful network. This is a very geolocalized network of merchants, 2,600 merchants across Venezuela, mostly based in the Caracas metropolitan district. And they sell over WhatsApp. They sell over WhatsApp groups. It's super common selling over WhatsApp groups on Instagram in Venezuela. Well, it's kind of common in Instagram. It's kind of common everywhere. But anyway, this is a very localized network. So it's been very fun just to test it out with them. We recently had a small pilot just to kind of start in training people on using Trustlines. And yeah, we just, Andreas, I had to tell you, like we are feeling like we had to, be more intense on the geolocalization, because to get to capacity, really. So that's an update for the HQ, but otherwise, yes, this is coming together very, very, very good. And there are very much a lot of potential of doing like time banking for local entrepreneurial networks, co-working spaces, volunteering networks, and just as well piggybacking on the problems that local merchants have. So I think this is it. Yes, yeah, you go, man. Questions on Crazy Venezuela anytime?
Any question?
Oh, maybe not.
Some more slides, yeah? So, okay, yeah, so that's basically what we're doing in Venezuela. Venezuela is one of 5 pilot projects that we have on the world. Get into detail some more of that. But the overall vision of Trustlines is that Trustlines, as it is an infrastructure that anybody can use to create their own local currency, create their own complementary currency, use existing currencies that have been deployed to build their own apps or use the protocol as any means of payment. Because they're also, even though the golden use case of Trustlines is payment, there are many different ways of payment. Yeah, you can do bill splitting with friends, you can do like gift vouchers, you can do, like in Venezuela, the replacement of paper IOUs so that the local businesses can basically still generate sales without losing customers, but also allowing the customers then to go to different stores and using the IOUs that they got from a different store. So the overall vision is open source. Trustlines protocol is the fabric and the underlying structure, and people can build stuff on top of it. We have the Trustlines protocol, which people basically enables to create their own money. We have the Trustlines app, which is an app that you can download in the App Store or in the Google Store, and you directly gain access to anything that is deployed on the Trustlines protocol and can directly use it with friends, family, or whatever use case you want to basically do. You can also approach us if you want to have a customized version of the app or for specific use cases. We have 47 different currency networks deployed on the Trustlines blockchain, which is a sidechain to Ethereum. It's been up and running for more than a year now. We launched the app last year in March at EthCC, which was cool, but then COVID struck, which was a little bit then disappointing. We have more than 6,000 app downloads, about 400 active users in a month, and 5 active community growth programs on the world, which some of them I cannot disclose because they are in political problematic regions where the government is very bad. So we don't want to tell who's basically in charge of those community projects. And the overall plan of growth is that we're currently in a phase where we're doing feel and reach. And we're talking to people on the ground. We have people in Venezuela, we have people in different countries that try to understand the need of the people. So I personally live in Germany. I don't know what the problems of somebody in Africa is, but I know that if we find people there, we can basically talk to these people, we can understand it, and then we can try to help these people. So have 10 pilot projects and then basically growth from an inorganic growth to an organic growth if the value is provided, and then just repeat the same thing over and over till we scale up to X amount of users. And that's where you come into play. So we are always actively looking for people that help us, support us. The Trustlines Foundation is giving away grants where people then basically can receive tokens which they can use to pay community initiatives or just people that are interested in Trustlines and want to use it for a specific use case. Please feel free to reach out to us or give us feedback what you think is missing, and we can also then implement it. We have free beer. That's the flyer. If you want to try out the app, feel free to come down. We're on the 3rd floor in the corner room. It's also cold since we have a refrigerator, and that's basically the picture of the flyer. You can scan the QR code. We'll create a trust line with you where we automatically already owe you a beer, and you can just redeem it and get a cold beer for that. Thank you. Any questions? One question. Do you have a question?
Hi, I like the idea. I remember you from 2 years ago or 1 year ago. But how exactly does the setup with the grocery store would look like? Like if I'm a grocery store that has like 300 or 400 customers, how do I actually set up this trust line with them? As we will be giving credits to each other. So if it's 400 customers, if it's like $10, there's $4,000 somehow in the void. So how does it look like?
Yeah, so this is nothing that we're trying to figure out. We know that it works. There are other systems out there that already do this. In Sardinian, which is a small island, very beautiful, there's a mutual credit system called Zadex. And they're operating since 10 years. They're centralized, and they do B2B and B2C relationships with mutual credit, where the stores create credit lines with other stores, but also give credit lines to their customers. So the concept itself works. So how it works is, if I go into a store and create basically a trust line, I just need to trust the store that if he owes me $3, that I will get it back at a different date, either through cash or through a different service. The shop doesn't need to trust me because he's not giving me a credit line. You have always 2 credit lines, but one of the credit line can also be 0. That's fine. So you have a bunch of customers going into a store. They basically create credit lines with the store, and the store gives out the IOUs. And that's as if the store would give you a voucher or a Gutschein. Like everybody of us already had like a voucher of something from a store. It's like we trust the stores. If you don't redeem it, the store goes bankrupt and then it's gone. That's sad, but the trust is there. So the interesting part is when the stores themselves actually have trust relationship with other stores. And in a circular economy, that's the best case because store A has a connection with store B because store A buys stuff from store B and store B buys stuff from store A. And with trust lines, and that's what we're basically trying to do, is map out certain trust paths within these merchants so that if I go into a store and get an IOU from that store, that I can actually redeem it also at a different place in a different store. because that then basically increases the usability of the overall system. Yeah, it's like I don't always want to go to that one store. I also want to go to a different store. But at the core, in the beginning at least, it's a lot of hands work. Yeah? You have to talk to the people. You have to find the right connections, etc. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Hi. What's the purpose of the Trustlines token, or the Ethereum token, and what's like the relationship between that token and the actual like Trustlines being built between merchants?
Mm-hmm. So the Trustlines token was created back 2018 as we created our own sidechain to Ethereum. We looked at all other possible solutions on how to avoid creating your own blockchain, because that's definitely not the coolest thing to do. Yeah. But there was no other solution. We looked at roll-ups, we looked at other side chains, but in general, we said that one requirement is that the transaction fees need to be very, very, very low to be sufficient for people in Africa or in countries where they cannot afford to pay $5 for transactions. Yeah? Especially if it's like buying bread or buying a Coke or buying water. Yeah? So the blockchain itself, since it is an EVM chain, needs to have a native coin in general. Yeah? Otherwise, transactions cannot be paid for. To make adoption work in a better way, we created a token on the Ethereum chain, and the foundation gave away 40 million of those tokens in a Merkle drop, which you can still claim. So go to trustlines.foundation, and then you can enter an Ethereum address, and if you're eligible, you can claim tokens. This was because for the Trustlines blockchain, we need to have validators running and validating the Trustlines blockchain, basically. But we wanted to basically not have one person running more than one validator, so we created something that's called minimal viable proof of stake, where we basically have a complex proof of society process up front of a validator auction, which rotates every 9 months or launches every 9 months again, and you need the token to participate in the auction. Yeah? But when you participate in the auction itself, you can claim your tokens after the 9 months holding period and get them back. Yeah? You can also take the token and transfer it to the Trustlines blockchain to pay transactions for. Yeah? So we have a monodirectional bridge where you transfer tokens to the Ethereum chain. In future, the overall plan is to migrate back to Ethereum. Yeah? So we don't want to continuously stay on a sidechain. We want to use a scalability solution that will hopefully be developed soon. Yeah? So a lot of ZK rollups or rollups in general are still not in a state where we can actually use it. Yeah? But that's the overall plan, to migrate back. And then the token on the Trustlines blockchain will also be migrated, and then everything will go back. And then the token itself is there to collect rewards and also to pay transaction and to take part in the validator auction or in some governance model. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Bless you.
Yeah, so like maybe these are more like 2 comments. So I love the idea in so many different dimensions, like the fact that I shop at a store and they expect me to come back and there's money waiting for me. Like, I think that's amazing, because in the US, we do all sorts of membership schemes to get user to come back. In here, it's like baked into the system. So you've built out retention. And then furthermore, in the US as well, like we increase the price of all of our products because we expect theft, we expect people not being able to pay. But if you have this Trustlines network and there's trust, like now the merchant like has better customers, and maybe they can lower their price by 10%, making like all of these goods more affordable. And then the very, very last thing is, in my business, like 5%, like maybe it's not that much anymore, but like 2 to 3% of our sales get charged back. So the credit card like takes the money back, and that like really sucks for us. So if I knew like who my customers were more likely to pay, then I can avoid like these chargeback fees and work with the customer on a different way of paying. 'Cause we still want their business, but make it on their terms. So this is huge. Thank you for your time, and like my brain's going off in a lot of directions. So really excited.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah. And that's a good point to like stress again the what is trust actually. Yeah? You can have a very close trust relationship with like friends and family, but you can use Trustlines to exactly do stuff like you can onboard customers and also do KYC processes with them to like bind the customers to you, because trust could also be, you know, excluded and can be based on a contract or some other agreement, etc. Yeah? So there's a lot of dimensions of trust in Trustlines. Questions? No questions. Then thank you very much. One more question.
That might be a basic question, but how do you know that people won't just steal your money and not give it back?
Yes, that's again the trust factor. Yeah, so like if you borrow money from a friend and you don't give it back to him, he's probably not your friend anymore. Like we take the same risk assumption here. Like don't open a trust line with somebody where you know you won't get the money back. And even if you trust the person, don't go and make a $10,000 trust line with him, because he might come to you and say, hey, I would like to have $10,000 because you said you would trust me to give me $10,000. But you could also divert that and have a contract with that person, like give him a credit and then have a like legal set up credit contract with him, etc. Yeah? So you cannot solve that problem with technology. You can only solve that problem with social engineering or with legal contracts. Yeah? Especially if you depend on a uncollateralized money creation way. Yeah? So like if it would be over collateralized, you could like build in certain mechanics where you like say, hey, you didn't give it back to me, I sell the collateral and get the return in that way. But then again, you go into countries where you basically say, yeah, you can use Trustlines, but you have to buy stuff before using it, and they're like, but I don't have any money, I cannot buy stuff. Yeah? That's why I want to have a system that basically creates money on its own in an uncollateralized way. Okay, thank you very much. That's the worst thing that happens to me.